Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, how you doing? Welcome into the program. So today on the show we have computer and technology news for the whole hour. Really looking forward to it. We've had a lot of guests this week, and wanted to catch up on some news because we've only been able to get to just a couple of stories through for every day, and hey, there's a lot piling up. And although I promise all of these are current, recent, really most if not all of them are from today. So don't worry, it's very timely, and of course, hey, all you have to do is sit back and relax. Now, if you want to follow along and really see anything that we're talking about here on the day, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, and of course the podcast. If you can't catch us live on IRN, then computeramerica.com, and of course the podcast, and wherever podcasts are heard, well, hey, that's the second best place to do so. Find us on social media at Computer America. That's the best place to also reach out to us if you'd like to recommend a guest, if you'd like to leave us a comment, or hey, just tell us that we're wrong. Social media is probably for you then as well. Now, all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news, brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So, I think that for our first story, we're going to go ahead and do this one. And this may lead into a much bigger conversation, and I'm okay for that. I'm ready for it. And this has to do with I found this article here from Engadget. About every publication had their own version of it. I really like how Engadget is able to kind of succinctly put these things. So we're going to pull off that. But it has to do with if you are, I know our statistics. If you are the majority of Computer America listeners, this probably does not directly affect you. But if you are not if you are in the minority of Computer America listeners, but let's face it, probably 50% of the active internet users, women face a lot of harassment online. It's been well documented. It's not just video games, it's social media in general. As soon as you put it out there that you are a woman, then you have a target on your back. And that is, even more so for public figures, for politicians, for so many others. That it's almost like it gives people one more way to kind of twist that knife. It gives them one more talking point that they can just kind of latch onto. Well, Facebook, Google, TikTok, Twitter, and more. It looks like now TikTok is being kind of lumped in with all the other social media sites, but still, social media in general pledge to improve women's safety online. And so I'm not really interested in seeing, kind of, is this really a problem, so on and so forth, because by and large, that should be a foregone conclusion. But I'm very interested in how they're going to manage such a thing, because that's not easy. That's changing people's behavior. And the more that you kind of dictate what people do, say, and act, and how they act, the less they are likely to kind of express their opinions. And, yes, in some regards, if those opinions and actions are really deplorable, who really cares if they take those words elsewhere? But it can go over a line, and we can even branch this into another conversation about Pinterest. But that'll be next. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Hundreds of prominent figures signed an open letter urging the tech giants to stick to their promises. And so Facebook, Google, TikTok, and Twitter have committed to battle online abuse and improve women's safety on their platforms. The four tech giants made promises during the UN Generation Equality Forum in Paris. Very fitting setting to announce changes like these. The pledge follows 4 consultations arranged by the Web Foundation that took place over 11 months. So this was not kind of a knee-jerk reaction. This was not done in silos. This is not what Twitter thinks is best for women. This is not what Google thinks is best for women. No, this was clearly over a long period of time with a lot of input. The organizations then ran a few policy design workshops in April to develop prototypes that center the experiences of women most impacted by online abuse, saying 2 core themes emerged. Curation, with a broad recommendation to build better ways for women to curate their safety online, and reporting, with a call to implement improvements to the reporting system. You can, of course, see how those 2 things would be very important and not detract from other people's experience, because curation, I think, is going to obviously be the bigger of the 2. Where, if they find content that they think is objectionable, or, there is just a constant spouting of negativity and things that are just not really up their alley, then the answer isn't to take down those things, because one way or another, in these open forums like Google and Facebook and so on and so forth, they will find their way back in. The better answer may be to curate better, to make sure that you see the content that you want to see. Now, that has the double side effect of, creating more bubbles, which social media has been attacked before for creating these bubbles that just really exclude contrary opinions. And, to a certain extent, that may be true, but also, I really do believe that everyone has the right to, set their social media up the way that they want. Just because someone says it doesn't mean that you have to listen to it. And more so, you don't even have to care about it. And that is everyone's prerogative. And if you can give people the tools to better curate that, if you are truly one of those diehard freedom at all costs kind of people, and you want to accept any and all messages, and you want to see any and all posts, and that's the way that you choose to have your social media experience, then hey, more power to you. But that doesn't mean that everyone wants to have that type of experience, and that's not a bad thing. Thinking that other people's opinions are lesser than yours, that's where you get into a lot of trouble. Now, the tech companies promise to offer users more granular settings over the content they can see, comment on, and reply to or share posts. Easier navigation and access to safety features, simpler and more accessible language across the user interface, and proactively reducing the amount of abuse that women encounter are also among the commitments. So it's not just those 2, but it is a long list of accessibility, readability, and just being more proactive, just finding the people that are being really mean, and if it rises to that point, taking action against them. As we have long said, and we even reposted a study that was done a number of years ago, that just because there's a difference between censorship and moderation can actually improve free speech as opposed to censoring free speech. There's a big difference. There you go. Now, they say that as for reporting, Facebook, Google, TikTok, and Twitter say they'll enable users to have the option of tracking and managing the reports that they file, as well as having more ways for women to access support and help as they go through the reporting process. The other commitments include enabling greater capacity to address context and/or language, and providing more policy and product guidance when reporting abuse. I'm sure that falls in line with things like, yeah, you can report someone for saying a bad word, and the word may turn up and may be flagged, and you'll be all good to go. They may be punished for that word, but there may be a longer string of harassment behavior that, these tech, I should really stop saying tech companies. These social media companies are trying to be proactive about. They're trying to take in more context, read more of the conversation. And I really like that first point, because so often you find people, you hit the report button, the report automatically, silences that account for you. And as far as you know, the report doesn't really do anything. I've felt this myself, and I'm sure a lot of people have, that you report people, it doesn't make an impact whatsoever. I think a little bit more clarity on what actually happens after you hit the report button would be very helpful. And I have also experienced this more so in video games, where you report people, and by and large, up until I think Overwatch was one of the first places that I experienced it, was you would report people and it'd be like, well, maybe they got banned. You hope that they do. To you, they were clearly hacking, cheating, being abusive, whatever it may be. And then, a week later, 3 days later, that afternoon, in some cases, you would get this message that would pop up on your screen saying that an account that you had reported has been suspended, punished, thanks to reports such as yours. Keep up the good work, things like that. Essentially giving people feedback that what they're doing actually matters, and you're not just, spitting into the wind. It's not for nothing, the reporting process. So I'm sure that women in particular, as well as men, anyone who does these reports online, they would be able to get some kind of benefit to reporting, even if the end result is the same as it was before. Just knowing that you had an impact, I think, can make a lot of difference. Now, with that being said, they mentioned that let's see, the second part of that was the other commitments include enabling greater capacity to address context and/or language. Yep, so obviously if people weasel their way around language filtering systems, and, by using special characters or misspelling on purpose, things like that, the system should be more intelligent to be able to catch that. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with artificial intelligence. Comes up all the time. According to the Web Foundation, the company's pledged to implement their solutions within a certain time frame. They'll provide insights and data on how they're carrying out these commitments. The Web Foundation will publish annual results on the progress as well. So, progress reports, always good. Keep people on track and see if what you're doing is actually having an impact. Keeping them on a time frame, I think, is the much more important one, because you can make these promises, and then, after this 200-person open letter, traction kind of dies down, and the media moves on to the next story, as they always do. What will actually become of this? Progress reports help with that. They mentioned that the open letter, which they have a link to here, I'm assuming, right here. You can see it here on the screen, saying that the the open letter over at the World Wide Web Foundation says, prioritize the safety of women, open letter to CEOs of Facebook, Google, TikTok, and Twitter. And yes, they address this to the CEO, obviously, of those 4 companies. Written in multiple languages, they have, they mentioned that this is an inter-country, inter-government kind of coalition. This happens all over the world, and it's they mentioned that the scale of the problem is huge. This is what I was kind of curious about, just how big of an issue is it? And they have links to some statistics, including 38% of women globally have directly experienced online abuse. This figure rises to 45% for Gen Zs and millennials, and for women of color, for Black women in particular, the women from the LGBTQ plus community and other marginalized groups, the abuse is often far worse. Because anything that is outside the norm of an internet user, which, let's face it, is white, male, heterosexual, that is kind of what was considered to be the norm of the internet user. Obviously, now the internet is used by anyone and everyone, and increased diversity and, of course, increased access across the globe can only be a good thing. But the established communities that have since swelled and grown with the increase of users and traffic, those started as those communities. Now, they mentioned that the consequences can be devastating. I'm sure that has led to any number of self-esteem issues and, of course, the ultimate negative outcome, things like suicide, and, of course, just not being welcome in these spaces. Definitely a bad thing. And let's face it, it'd be a bad thing for these companies as well, because that's users turning away from their platform for those reasons. So, let's go ahead and continue on here, saying that among those who have signed the letter are actors Emma Watson and Gillian Anderson, UK members of Parliament Diane Abbott and Jess Phillips, Creative Commons CEO Catherine Stiller, and ex-Australia Prime Minister Julia Gillard. The Web Foundation says 30, and we just went over that. Meanwhile, Facebook just opened a women's safety hub that explains the platform's tools for bolstering privacy and security. It will also run training sessions to help people harness those tools. In addition, the hub has resources for victims of abuse. Facebook developed the hub with the support of nonprofit partners around the globe, and the hub resources will soon be available in 55 different languages. Quite incredible. And luckily I don't hear about it much, so I don't want to blow the issue out of proportion, but there are people that think that any pushback, any pushing in this direction, that platforms need to do more to make their services more hospitable for any inclusive reason, be that for gender, for sexuality, for, so on and so forth, they push back on it, they have some weird stick in places I can't say, and really, inclusivity should be the name of the game. If people feel they are being targeted, and of course you have the data to back that up, and you can make small changes that really don't affect, none of these things that we have talked about today really affect me whatsoever. I do not receive those kinds of messages, thankfully, and I don't want to, so don't take that as a hint, but none of these things that they're talking about affects my ability to communicate and talk to, and connect to people as I choose. So if you can make someone else's experience better without affecting others, that's just an all-around positive win. So I'm very happy that they're doing that. One thing that I wanted to, kind of comment on, and I'm going to have to be very careful about this because this one's also from Engadget. Speaking of inclusiveness, this article, I think, would enrage the same type of people that I'm kind of carefully treading around. And I wanted to talk about this because Pinterest, which is, one of those social media sites that is actually fairly fairly popular with women. And women have been fighting on so many fronts for so many reasons. And one of them that we don't really talk about here on the show is the whole body positivity movement. Well, Pinterest, hey, with an audience like they have, is going to take a stance on this. And the stance that they took, I'm sure, was not easy because these types of ads can be very lucrative. But what I'm saying, if you're watching the video portion here, is that Pinterest bans all weight loss ads. The service says its community has been embracing body neutrality. So it's not even about body positivity, which is the term that I had always heard, but body neutrality. Let's find out more before we make a fool of ourselves. Pinterest has announced a complete ban on weight loss ads, which goes into effect today. The policy builds on previous rules that prohibited ads for weight loss or appetite suppressant pills and supplements, liposuction and fat burning procedures, and body shaming. Body shaming, I'm assuming that we've all seen infomercials on workout products, and they're like, "Are you tired of your old flabby body?" And they show, what most people would consider, relatively normal bodies. And they're going to sell you a fantasy body that, with one little cheaply made product, you too can have this thing. All you need is this weird stick on a wheel on a stick, and you can do incredible things and shape your body in a matter of weeks. But no, they show generally pretty ordinary women, and of course anyone who is not ordinary, anyone who is ordinary or a little bit further, higher in body weight, things like that, will feel instantly worse about themselves because they don't match what is being put in front of them, what is paid to be put in front of them. Now, the policy, they mentioned that there's now a blanket ban on ads with any weight loss language or images and those that reference body mass index, BMI, or similar indexes. Testimonials about weight loss or weight loss products are prohibited, as are language and images that denigrate or idealize body types. Additionally, you'll no longer see ads for products that claim to enable weight loss through something that's worn or applied to the skin. That last one probably should have happened way long ago. To say that there is an ointment, there's some kind of weird stimulation girdle kind of thing that can make you burn weight. Those should have been made for a long time because those are just snake oil. But the other ones, testimonials about weight loss or weight loss products. So if someone were to pop up on an ad, be it a banner ad or an image or a video ad that says that, with this one pill, I was able to lose 30 pounds. Those would be banned. Anything that says something like, burn 3% of body fat, over the course of a month, that would be banned. Some pretty sweeping bans that are actually coming out here, and they would affect nearly every weight loss product on the market. So yeah, they seem to have really, it's not just targeting one or two kinds of products. No, this is going to be weight loss across the board. Ads related to fitness products and services and those promoting healthy habits and lifestyles are still welcome. However, any focus on weight loss won't be approved. That's the part that is going to be on a case-by-case basis, and they're going to have to make that judgment call, as they do for, political ads or, doomsday ads, anything like that. These case-by-case basis ads are, it's going to take a little bit more nuance, but that's okay. And that's the part I was really interested in hearing from. I was about to say concerned, but honestly, the weight loss ad industry, I am not concerned about whatsoever. Like most people, I need to lose weight, and I know that better than any ad does. So I'm not really concerned about the whole ad thing, but I think that there are a lot of products that should be advertised to people who are looking to get healthier, and they don't have a ban on those. Things like fitness machines, treadmills, things like ellipticals or workout routines, things like that, as long as they emphasize, be healthier, feel better, promote fitness in general, improve healthy habits and lifestyles, cook cleaner, be more active, things like that. Those are all still A-okay. Now, that's one of the fun things about living a healthier lifestyle that I think a lot of people can get behind, is that a byproduct of that is that you will lose weight. And, if nothing else, being more conscious about your habits is also going to help you lose weight. But focusing strictly on you don't look good, you do not fit into these sets of clothes, therefore you need to lose weight, that is what is banned. And I can't imagine too many people being upset over that. Pinterest developed the updated policy with the support of the National Eating Disorders Association. The organization said in March it had seen a 41% increase in helpline calls during the previous 12 months, and studies have suggested that the COVID-19 pandemic had a significant impact on many people with eating disorders. I can imagine COVID, obviously a lot more isolation, people losing their jobs, financial troubles, and disrupted routines. I'm sure people's workouts, many gyms were not open, and people with eating disorders I'm sure that there's been a lot of stress for everyone out there, and falling back into bad habits. That 41% increase in that over the previous 12 months, I completely see that. Whenever someone searches for content related to eating disorders on Pinterest, the company redirects that person to NEDA, which is, again, the National Eating Disorders Association, to provide them with helpful resources. Luckily, so if you type in, let's just say bulimia, on Pinterest, you won't see 1,000 how-to guides. No, you'll be directed to somewhere with information. Obviously very specific to that. The company says its community has been embracing body neutrality with searches for that term and quotes related to healthy mindset, stop body shaming, and body acceptance rising dramatically over the past year or so. Pinterest will highlight related pins from creators on the Today tab to showcase those reimagining the relationship with their bodies. Pinterest says it's the first major platform to ban all weight loss ads, and it urged others to do the same. And I think it's really impressive that Pinterest was the one to do it, because their audience, their users, are probably some of the prime targets for that industry, for the weight loss, being majority women. Weight loss, people love that. They love that they can almost like psychologically break women or pick on women to the point where, just like so many other industries have, fashion and, fashion, weight loss, Hollywood and entertainment in general, have taught women that their bodies are unacceptable for this reason or that. Their platform should have been, that should have been one of their biggest money makers when it comes to advertising. Instead, they're taking a stand against it. So you have to really give kudos to Pinterest for taking a stand against that. Instagram and Facebook have restricted ads for diet products. Instagram also points users searching for eating disorder related terms towards the NEDA website as well. Last year, TikTok prohibited ads for weight loss supplements and those that promote a harmful or negative body image. TikTok, though, there have been reports that behind the scenes, TikTok has actually censored users and restricted the virality of their post based on their body image. They have taken content from people who are overweight and made sure that not as many people saw it because they thought it would be a bad look for TikTok. So, TikTok in particular, I'm not too keen on them. But by and large, once again, banning all weight loss ads and instead promoting these things. Now, healthy mindset, stop body shaming, body acceptance, all these things. I mean, no one should go through their day hating who they are, hating what their body looks like, that whole thing. Again, as someone who has really struggled with their weight my entire adult life, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at, but that doesn't mean I have to hate, what I am or what my body looks like. I can improve it, and, I can take steps to actively improve what I got going on over here, but stopping the shaming, the hate, just because I don't fit what is seen as, kind of like, what would be considered healthy. I can improve my health, but that doesn't mean I need to lose weight to improve my standing with, the way that others see me. It's related, but not 100% correlated. I think that's where we're kind of leaving it out there. And again, really just huge respect to Pinterest because, as I said before, their platform would probably earn a lot of money if they just let people do this as much as they want. But yeah, they decided to go the other way with it, and that's something to really be respected. So, okay, story number 2. Yeah, we're really blazing through these things, more than half the show gone. But again, these topics are very important, and they're not talked about, I think, as much as other issues, and they're important. They may not be important to everyone, but to those that they affect, these are incredibly important topics. And I always love having guests on the show that, have talked about this. We've had everyone from psychologists to authors to policymakers on the program to explain, kind of their roles and, just the relationship that all of this has on the tech economy and tech sphere in general. It's all interconnected, even if you don't see it, and these steps are going to have long-term healthy benefits to everything that we do. So there you go. Okay, story number 2, story number 3. Oh, okay, we can switch this up here because we have a lot that we can talk about that is not about social issues. How about something fun just to break it up a little bit? This is from The Verge, and student will show the video here if you're watching the video portion. But yeah, a student gets Windows 11 to run on what platform? Is it a Mac? Is it a tablet? Nope, Windows 11 to run on a Windows phone, of all things, right? Why? I don't think Windows could even get Windows to run on a Windows phone. This is really amazing. So they mentioned that the Windows 11 preview only got released earlier this week, but a student has already managed to get Microsoft's latest operating system to run on a Windows phone. He is an engineering student. Gustav Montz has created a brief video demonstrating Windows 11, which you can see here. It's about 3 minutes long, and yeah, he's kind of moving tablets and he's snapping windows. It actually seems to be performing quite admirably. And they mentioned that it was on a Lumia 950 XL, which is one of the first devices to ship a Windows 10 mobile. It was also one of Microsoft's last Windows-powered phones before the company ended support for its mobile OS. Essentially, this is one of the more high-powered phones that Windows ever released, and yeah, he was able to get it running. Windows 11 adapts surprisingly well for the 5.7-inch display, but the same can't be said for the speeds of the animation. You can obviously imagine that the snappiness that we expect from smartphones and mobile operating systems, it can't be slow, has to be instant. Well, there's a lot of like shrinking down windows, pop-up, sliding. These kinds of animations are more desktop centric, but hey, that's the fun part of it. It's not really meant to be used as, this is a true operating system replacement for a smartphone. No, it's just kind of a novelty. And he mentioned to The Verge that it all really started 5 years ago when Windows 10 Mobile was near obsolescence. He teamed up with another student to bring the idea of running full Windows on these phones to life. And yep, you can see it there. We're going to go ahead and pause the video there, but essentially saying that as time went on and we started talking about it, discussion groups formed, and in turn we had a community of people interested in running full Windows 10 on Lumia 950s. We're now basically a team of 15 people, and we've made a lot of progress. Why you would want to run a full desktop version on a phone, I get it and I don't get it at the exact same time, but that's the fun part about it. So Monson and his team had built a dedicated site for their project, and it includes tools, guides, and documentation on bringing Windows 10 and Windows 11 to old Windows phones. Not everything works perfectly, and the camera's failing to function, a hit to battery life, and calls, SMS occasionally breaking due to Microsoft's OS changes. It's more of a fun project to see how far engineers and developers can push the devices that Microsoft has abandoned. It's really impressive because clearly there is a difference between a mobile operating system and a desktop operating system, namely size and power. The hit to battery life is kind of an obvious one. The inability for the operating system to recognize the cameras, that's very unfortunate, but not unheard of. That there wouldn't be drivers for built-in smartphone cameras for this operating system. But yeah, and of course, calls and SMS not being able to work is pretty big. But as the article said, this is for fun. It's definitely for fun. So we got to say that we'll leave it here with a quote saying that I wouldn't say we were quite fast to do it. We took 4 years to get to the current state, but it's actually impressive we got here with not much documentation on hand. Because of all that work for Windows 10 and the work we previously did to support Windows 10X, Windows 11 was a natural path forward, and we really didn't take much to get going. So what they're saying there, is that hopefully what Windows wants to hear is that if it can run Windows 10, then it can run Windows 11. And because they spent all the time and effort and energy to get Windows 10 to work on a smartphone, then Windows 11 was pretty simple to do that as well. Good job to that. And again, that was on The Verge. So I think that our next story that we're going to do, again, that was just a quick one. Okay, another quick one. Since we gave some airtime to Windows, we can give some airtime to Mac and Apple. Apple's macOS Monterey public beta is now available. This from Engadget and Mr. Hardware. They mentioned that while iOS 15 and iPad OS 15 are Apple's major software focus this year, there's still plenty to look forward to in Mac OS Monterey. And you'll be able to get your first taste of it with the launch of the public beta. You can now sign up to receive it on Apple's beta software page, which they have a link to it in the article that will be in the show notes. And of course, we'll just include a straight link to it as well with the beta.apple.com/sp/beta program. I'm sure that the SP would be like software program, maybe? Yeah, I assume. Also, just beta.apple.com/sp seems to work as well. So, hey, save yourself the trouble. Now, Apple's new OS features are dramatically redesigned versions of Safari, which combines tabs and menu options into a single compact bar, as well as enhanced FaceTime features and the ability to enjoy media together with friends. There's also universal control, and they mentioned that that will let you control your Macs and iPads with a single keyboard and mouse. Not even, more so than that, it allows them to, I guess kind of automatically know that you are trying to switch from your computer to your tablet, through whatever smart trickery that they're doing. Yeah, you can quickly switch from one to the other without ever having to, actually physically switch these devices. Essentially, it knows and it unifies the user experience, which is really amazing. So even without universal control, the public beta still gives you a sense of how Apple's latest OS feels. He mentions that the new Safari in particular will take a bit of getting used to, and it's nice to see Apple finally giving FaceTime some new capabilities. You'll be able to test out AirPlaying audio to macOS, as well as some simplified automation capabilities with shortcuts. So there you go. It's time for the public beta, or if you don't want to be a guinea pig, you can, of course, wait for the full release. Okay, plenty of time, and we can definitely get into a story that, I'm quite interested in, because the right to repair has been coming up more and more, much to the detriment of laptop and smartphone manufacturers, because it's not even so much that, oh no, we're going to lose this, kind of the repair market and, being able to fix old phones and things like that. It's more so that these companies have to suddenly, almost overnight, figure out how to design their products to be durable and fixable. We saw a big shift coming from the iPhone 5S to the iPhone 6. I vividly recall one of the big complaints between those two devices is that Apple went from using screws and a lot of metal pieces to a lot more plastic and a lot more glue. Now, that had a couple of benefits. First is that you could reduce overall size, you could reduce overall weight, you could reduce overall complexity, but it had the unfortunate side effect of making the iPhone 6 one of the hardest and most impossible to repair iPhone to date, because once you broke into that device and you started to tinker with it, and of course, you did things like separating the glue, hey, you didn't really have any other adhesive to put back into it. So again, it's not even so much that Apple might be losing their tech support part of their business to other people who have the right to do that, but it's changing fundamentally the way that laptops, phones, and other digital devices are manufactured. Less cheaply, more the ability to let them be repaired. Now, the US has legislature working on this. The EU has legislature working on that, as well as battery systems and cables and charging cords and so on and so forth. The US has a very fractured landscape when it comes to the right to repair, with every state seemingly proposing its own right to repair bills, or lobbyists getting their way and no right to repair bills being introduced into their state congresses, or I should say their state legislatures. There we go. But now, the UK one, this is what brings us here today, saying that the British right to repair law, and I know I just focused on smartphones and computers for a reason, but the right to repair extends to, the most famous weird one is like John Deere tractors and the ability for farmers to be able to side boot it and make changes to the operating system and service, even though John Deere would much rather you pay for their maintenance and pay for their system updates so that your hundreds of thousands of dollar piece of farm equipment can continue to operate. Clearly, this is going to affect a lot more than computers and smartphones. But the UK, their right to repair law, even though it comes in force today, it excludes smartphones and computers. Two devices that I think would have the most implication for the most people who would be affected by this law. Let's find out why. A British right to repair law comes into force today requiring manufacturers to make spares available to both consumers and third-party repair companies. And they mention spares. I'm sure they meant that spare parts. This is very famous with Apple, who would, they would only sell parts to kind of approved or accredited, like official Apple repair partners, and then Apple would only sell them parts that Apple made. So Apple got to keep a tight control on the parts that went into repaired smartphones, and again, that was kind of like a two-sided story. One side that you can think of it is that Apple gets to make their buck on every part sold. You couldn't use a third-party camera. You can't use a third-party screen. You can't use a third-party Touch ID sensor. You can't use a third-party anything else. It has to be Apple approved, and Apple has to get their cut out of every single part. Yes and no. The other side of it is that for security reasons, and this happened to every Android phone out there, and in a few rare cases, before Apple started to crack down on it, people, one of the things that people would do, let's say Touch ID sensors, for example, before Apple really locked that down, people would take the Touch ID sensor out of a smartphone that they're trying to hack into, that they want the data off of, and they would instead reinstall a different Touch ID module that already had the hacker's fingerprints preloaded onto it. So it's almost like if you lock your front door and the person trying to break into your house just changes the lockout to their lock that they already have a key to. Clearly, from a security standpoint, that is what is considered no bueno. So Apple's response to that was to lock it down, say you can only buy from our own parts, and of course that, hey, luckily for them, that definitely benefited Apple, but for everyone else, that made wait times and parts and repair shops, that are operating all throughout the world to be able to repair these devices put up a huge barrier to entry because you had to wait for parts and you could only use the parts that Apple specified. Anyone who has cracked a screen, you know how annoying that could be, that, it's like, well, someone's selling a screen that I would like to use that's only $15, but Apple makes me use this one that costs $90. There's a very clear benefits for consumers if they could use more parts. Now, all that being said, let's find out why Britain decided that, smartphones and laptops should not be included in this bill. They said that from Thursday, manufacturers will have to make spares available to consumers with the aim of extending the lifespan of products by up to 10 years, it said. The right to repair rules are designed to tackle built-in obsolescence, where manufacturers deliberately build appliances to break down after a certain period to encourage consumers to buy new ones. Manufacturers will now be legally obliged to make spare parts available to consumers so appliances can be fixed. And you can see here they're mainly focused on these devices that are currently the only ones covered, and right here, again, emphasis on appliances, dishwashers, washing machines and washer dryers, refrigeration appliances, televisions, and other electronic displays, but that very notably does not include smartphones and tablets. and of course computers. So the UK law ensures spares are available for either 7 or 10 years after the discontinuation of a product, but that it only covers 4 specific consumer product categories, plus some commercial and industrial ones. And yeah, they also cover non-consumer electronics such as light sources, electric motors, refrigerators with a direct sales function, i.e. fridges in supermarkets, vending machines, or cold drinks, power transformers, and welding equipment. So all that is also included by the right to repair as well. Now, they said that while you would expect other electronic displays to include things like iPads, iPhones, other smartphones, things that have a built-in display in them, and let's face it, if you're not looking at your phone's display, then what the heck are you doing with it? No. Turns out that says that these product categories are excluded, including cookers, hobs, whatever the heck hobs are, hobs, tumble dryers, microwaves, or tech such as laptops or smartphones aren't covered. Why bother with any of this then? Like, I get it. And as someone who has had to fix a lot of washers and dryers and dishwashers in their time, or at least look at them, scratch my head and go, well, it's dead. Yeah, I mean, cool, good. Finding spare parts sometimes has been a problem, but appliances by and large, that hasn't really been an issue. Even when you need like a whole new kind of CPU or like brain of a washer, that costs a lot of money, but the part is usually there. The fact that this does not reach smartphones and laptops, I think the people of Britain should really feel like they, that they got short-ended with the legislation. But at least the legislation is there, and it can, of course, be expanded on later. So that's at least one part of the benefit. So there you go. Let's hope it does get expanded, because a lot of different sectors, and I'm sure a lot of consumers, would love to see that happens. So how about this one? NFTs, man, they rose to popularity and then they came crashing down oh so fast. And while they may not be the hot story they were at one point, turns out that yesterday, Tim Berners-Lee, if you've never had the pleasure of hearing about him, he made the first internet. He wrote the programming for the World Wide Web, and he sold yesterday his NFT, which would be the original source code of the World Wide Web, as an NFT for $1,000 when it went up to auction. But it did not end for $1,000. No, turns out it was actually sold for $5.4 million. Not a bad payday for the creator of the World Wide Web. But they mentioned that the digital package included not just the source code, but also a letter from Berners-Lee reflecting on the creation of the web, some original HTML documents, an SVG poster of thousands of lines of code, and a 30-minute visualization of the code being typed on a screen. And that's one of the fun things about NFTs is that, well, here's the letter that he kind of wrote on his thoughts on creating the World Wide Web, which would be very interesting from like a philosophical or like a philosophy standpoint on the original purpose of the World Wide Web. But yeah, everyone has access to everything that he just sold for $5.4 million. I am still flabbergasted that these things are selling for so much when everyone has an exact copy of them. But there's a twist. An eagle-eyed researcher pointed out on Twitter that the animation initially posted on the Sotheby's site had errors in the code. If there's one thing programmers are good at. It's finding the errors in other people's code. I think it's because they have so much expertise, so much experience making typos of their own that they hunt and pick through other people's work just so they can feel a little bit of camaraderie or vindication, validation that everyone makes mistakes. And, well, Tim Berners-Lee is no exception. His code was a little bit wrong. They mentioned that the angle brackets are wrong. They've been saying that they've been HTML encoded for less than greater than brackets to ampersand LT and ampersand GT, which of course ampersand less than and ampersand G greater than LOL, because obviously that code was not really didn't really exist there. And that's, nowadays when you are writing things in HTML, that's kind of good practice, because while it could still work, being able to, not be lazy and put the ampersand is, just kind of good practice. But in this case, it's not accurate to the time. On the poster, which was made by a Python script created by Berners-Lee, the brackets appear correct. Presumably, they are correct in the code itself. The code was corrected in later animations, raising questions about this particular NFT and NFTs as a whole. It's unclear whether the video posted on the listing page for the auction was pulled directly from the animation originally included in the NFT, and we've reached out to Sotheby's for clarification. But if it was, and if the later corrected animation reflects what was actually sold, it could mean that the original NFT was scrapped and a new one was created. I.e., the NFT was, oh good lord, did you know you could actually create, copy and paste, and, completely destroy and reimagine an NFT? Oh my, NFTs might be a whole big waste of time. Shocking. So, and here's the gentleman himself writing it for CERN, and they even include, this was an SVG autograph poster of the code, and this is all the code. You can see it here. You can kind of drag it along here. It's a big old whopping poster that is, the entirety of the original internet. It's pretty crazy. They mentioned that if NFTs can be trashed and a new one created, is the new version worth more than it's factually correct? Or would a typo version of Berners-Lee's NFT be worth more because of the unique history? It wouldn't be the first time a collectible gained value because of an error. Several thousand pennies minted in 1955 are worth up to $16,000, all because of a misaligned die struck one side with two copies of In God We Trust, Liberty, in 1955. Who knew? But, they said that in other words, Sotheby's might be sitting on an NFT that's even more rare than the one fetched over $5 million. I don't think that at all, but it's fun to think about. So let's see, how do we access that? Here we go. Yeah, so again, all of this will be included in the show notes if you want to check that out yourself. Everything that was sold at auction, that's the fun part, is available to anyone and everyone. You may not own the original, but you own the exact same thing. So, didn't even have to pay $5.4 million for it. Really incredible. Okay, our last story will be about Humble Bundle, and we have promoted them on the show multiple times. They've traditionally been a really easy sell for people, where they would partner with developers, they would partner with a lot of people from the industry, and of course partner with charity to put together these bundles that benefit whoever you decide. If you feel that publishers, should get a certain chunk of money, and you can donate you donate and you get a certain amount of these titles. Like you can donate certain thresholds, and every threshold you get, for every threshold you get a certain amount of games. And, let's say if you donate 40, you get 8 different games. If you donate 20, you get like 4 different games, whatever it may be. Anyways, one of the cool things about it was that if you decided you wanted all of your money to go to a good cause, and, it's not saying that publishers don't deserve money. It's not saying that Humble, who runs the service, doesn't deserve money. But if you decided that all the money were sent to charity, then, hey, that's exactly what would happen. You could dictate that all of your money goes to charity. Well, they're changing it just a little bit, saying that, and you may recall this is part of a story that happened back in May, where Humble wants to take 15% of every sale on their site. No longer can you dictate that all the money goes to charity or all the money goes to publishers. Regardless of what you decide, 15% goes to bundle or to Humble itself. That's non-negotiable, and then everything else is figured after the point. And Humble Bundle says customers will still be able to adjust their specific charitable giving within these new limits, and on-screen sliders will make any minimums clear. The team also argues that ensuring Humble Bundle itself makes some money from every bundle sale will let us continue to invest in more exciting content so we can keep growing the community, which by and large helps charity, so they claim. Essentially saying, if we do good, everyone else does good, and they feel that 15% was not much. They already received a lot of feedback on that 15%, and they pulled that back in May. But looks like they're sticking with it. They're going to continue it, and they're going to go through with it. Very controversial, and we'll see how that plays out for them. But again, it's not that Humble Bundle doesn't deserve money or publishers don't deserve money, but when you make your namesake off, this is, you can do good, this is for charity. Yeah, it's almost like you are using charity to promote yourself, and that's a hard sell. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.